Can a judge sit on a case where he has a personal interest in one of the parties before him? The U.S. House Judiciary Committee is planning a hearing on the federal recusal guidelines amid controversies that have swept through the state court systems in recent years. But what about when the judge is a defendant? It makes no sense anywhere in the rational world. But here in California, it's happened. And if once wasn't enough, it's happening again right now. Full disclosure has been following the sorry saga of the incarceration of attorney Richard Fine, who has challenged California judges who have accepted illegal payments. He has filed numerous petitions, writs of habeas corpus, that he be let out of jail. His first appeal was denied by U.S. District Court Judge John Walter and Magistrate Judge Carla Woehrleand. Marty Mason was the former office manager for Mr. Fine's law firm. She explained to Fred Sotilli on the set of Full Disclosure what Mr. Fine did in response to the denial of his writ.
So he filed an appeal with the Ninth Circuit Court. Judge Affey from the Superior Court answered that appeal and apparently made some false statements to the court and even cited to an order that doesn't even exist. And we know that because I pulled a copy of the docket and we've all looked at it. There's no such order listed anywhere on it, so it doesn't exist.
So Mr. Fine prepared a new petition with the district court showing the new evidence involving Judge Affey.
And he also named as parties to the petition the district court, specifically these same judges, Walter and Woehrleand, as respondents because they had refused to follow the statute, USC section 2243, and when they denied the first petition.
The statute USC 2243 that Marty references requires the court to act immediately by either releasing the petitioner or by denying the writ or to show cause. They did none of the above. And so Mr. Fine named both the judges as defendants in his appeal petition to the district court.
Fred took down those documents to file with the district court, and we were given the shock of the year on what level of deviousness they're willing to play with the case these days.
Fred Sotilli, a volunteer who files all of Mr. Fine's petitions with the court, described what Marty referred to as the shock of the year.
This started off to be a real easy job for a day. Simply go down and file these documents, and the people that work there in the pro se window in the federal building are really very nice, helpful people. So I went down and I brought these 4 documents, and I said, well, we're going to file these today. And they said, okay, no problem. And I said, I need to know who the judges are going to be, who you're going to assign these to. And they said, well, we're going to assign them to Judge Walter and Judge Carla Woehrleand. And I said, well, you know, I felt kind of smug about it. I said, well, you can't do that. You see, they're the defendants. If you look on page 2, you see that, and the girl at that window, she looked on page 2 and says, oh, you're right, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Let me go talk to my supervisor.
The supervisor wasn't going to change court procedure to follow the law.
She talked to her for about 5 minutes, and then it was pretty heated looking, and she came out and took about 10 steps and then went back in and talked to her again. And finally she came out and she said, look, I know it doesn't make any sense and it doesn't seem right, but since it's a pro se filing, it has to be reviewed by Judge John Walter, and it will then be assigned to Magistrate Judge Carla Woehrleand. I said, well, one of these documents says that we don't want a magistrate judge, and this is our right and everything. And she says, well, I know, but this is our procedure, so we have to follow it. I'm just a clerk. And I said, okay, I appreciate that, but you do realize that I'll be back next week with motions to recuse those people, you know, and everything rightfully so. And she said, yes, procedurally, that's what you should do. Unfortunately, you'll have to do that, and we'll see you next week.
So the wheels of the court bureaucracy slowly turned, but they turned on Fred Sotilli and Mr. Fine.
Well, I came back the following week, and now there was a man at the window, and another really nice guy, and he's used to seeing me. Hi, you know, how you doing? And I said, well, here's the recusals as promised. And he said, I'm familiar with the case, and just let me have those, and we'll take care of it right away. And he opened the computer, and he said, I don't believe it. He says, I can't file these. I said, well, you have to. He said, well, I can't. The case is closed. I said, wait a minute. I brought this last Friday. When was the case closed? He said, it was closed on Wednesday, the following Wednesday. I said, well, who did it? And he actually turned the computer around. He says, you see the signature? Judge John Walter.
Judge John Walter dismissed and closed the case in which he was named a defendant. How could this happen in any court in America?
I told Mr. Fine, and he said, well, you can't do that. That's ridiculous. He said, there's an FRCP rule. It's called Rule 60. And we'll have to invoke that in order to actually file those papers. A judge can't rule in a case where he's the defendant. This all started with Judge Yaffe doing this. He ruled in a case where he's the defendant. That's why Richard's in jail. And now these judges do the same thing, backing up Judge Yaffe by committing the same crime. I mean, anybody would see how unethical that would be to be the judge in your own case, and that's what he did. He did it. First Yaffe did it, then Walter and Woehrleand did it, then they did it again. So now, you know, this is where we are right now anyway. They just don't get it. They're obviously not stupid people. So what are they?
We asked longtime paralegal Marty Mason to give her opinion on the conduct of the Los Angeles Superior Court and this U.S. District Court judge.
Well, since it's such a no-brainer, such a simple issue that you cannot be a judge in a case in which you're a party, then I really even hate to use the word, but it is no exaggeration to say that this is just a bombshell of a cover-up. Judge Walter and Magistrate Judge Woehrleand have gone way out on a limb to dismiss a case in which they are parties. Obviously, that is going to go up to the Ninth Circuit on appeal. The situation has just gotten so ridiculous. I keep wondering if the head judge of the entire district, Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy, won't just show up someday and bang some heads together, because it's ridiculous.
So Marty Mason indicates that this case, where the U.S. District Court Judge John Walter sat in judgment and dismissed a case against himself, may have to go to the U.S. Supreme Court and Justice Kennedy. She suggests that there may not be a judge anywhere in California who will take the proper action.
As bad as it was, the situation with the under-the-table payments to the local judges, that is nothing compared to what is going on now. Now it's about whether we even still have a judicial system. And we certainly do not, if it is possible, for a judge to rule on a case that involves him personally.
Indeed, there is a question whether or not we've lost our judicial system. In 2007, and as recent as November 2009, the judges of the 2nd Appellate District of the state of California, all 31 of them, have recused themselves from the case of Sturgeon versus the County of Los Angeles, where Judicial Watch organization has been battling in court to stop the illegal payments being made to the judges. So when 31 justices of the Court of Appeals recognize the conflict and can no longer function in their official capacity, perhaps this substantiates that our judicial system is threatened. We would like to know what you, the viewers, think. Number 1. Do you think there's a possibility that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal will let stand Judge Walter's decision to dismiss a case where he was the defendant? Yes or no? Number 2, do you think that a court administrator that assigns a case to a judge that is named as a defendant in the case should be prosecuted? Yes or no? Number 3, should judges who have been found to have a conflict of interest in a case and have refused to recuse themselves be prosecuted, punished, and fined? Yes or no? Be sure to leave your comments below. I'm Leslie Dutton. Thank you.